Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All right, welcome to our talk today. My name is Eric Omwega. I lead marketing at Rudderstack. Just a quick introduction about Rudderstack. We are a warehouse-native customer data infrastructure platform, and our sole reason to exist is to make data valuable. So we'll talk more about that in a second, but before I introduce the esteemed guests that we have with us today, two things that we've learned in doing these types of events. Number one is people don't necessarily watch the slides, so we're not going to have slides today. And then two, nobody wants to hear from a vendor, so we brought two of our most innovative customers to talk more about their experience in making customer data valuable. So hopefully you find this session helpful. We'll leave 5 minutes at the end for any questions that you may have. So we are fortunate here to have two customers. We've got Anton from Bolt and Alberto from OneFootball. I'll let them introduce themselves, and then we'll jump into a free-flowing Q&A session. So Anton?
Hello guys, I'm Anton from Bolt. I lead marketing technology team, specifically technology part, so managing all of the vendors that we use in marketing teams and basically making sure that the data flows between our systems to all of the external systems as well.
Hi everybody, I'm Alberto. I'm the Director of Data Engineering in OneFootball. OneFootball is in the media space, so we connect content to fan, and if you like football or if you are interested in the world of football, you should download our app. You can find scores, leagues, championship, all the information, Bundesliga, Premier League. So you can find a lot of content that is relevant for you.
Awesome, thank you. So as data practitioners, the main challenge that we face is creating value from customer data, right? We focus on customer data because arguably customer data is the most important asset that a company has, right? Because you're looking to create business value, and the way you create business value is to create delightful experiences for customers. So my first question, and we'll start with you, Anton, how were you looking to make data valuable, or what business value were you looking to create from data at Bolt?
So we have different, let's say, areas that we manage. So we have ride hailing, we have delivery, we have business. So they're all very different. So how we use the data to actually generate value is, let's say, from marketing perspective, we send communications real time. We do advertising. We do product analytics as well, and this is all thanks to actually generating the data from our sources as well.
Fantastic. And any specific use cases that you were focused on earlier on at Bolt?
So I think like in ride-hailing and delivery business, the time that users are using the app, let's say that they sign up and they do let's say an order, that could be like a very short time span. So we want to make sure that all of those use cases are actually activated in real time, so we can manage the expectations of customers as well.
Fantastic. Alberto?
Yeah, so the customer data platform in OneFootball is I think is the third generation now. So the first generation we decided to go with the buy. Then there were some limits. The vendor was not keeping up with the requirements, the streaming part, real-time use cases, they were not possible. And so when you operate the infrastructure in your company, you understand that eventually there will be a new generation of your infrastructure, and so you need to decide what you're going to do. You come up with a plan. We decided to do a second generation build, and we thought, based on the first generation, we have enough experience, we can build it and save money. But actually, it didn't work out. And so we had to start immediately a third generation. And this time we went back to buy, find the right partner with the expertise. So the use cases are retargeting, performance, marketing, attribution, product analytics. So all the use cases where The data of the customer can create value, can be monetized, personalization, they are in scope. And my advice as a practitioner, I have built many customer data platform and data platform in the past, is that don't underestimate the problem. It's really tough, especially when you switch from batch to streaming. Streaming is really hard. It requires specialized engineers. They are very difficult to find in the market, and it will take a lot of time to build a strong team. And there is always a liability, because if you lose a couple of these engineers, you will have problems. And so my advice is, if you have to build a new generation of the customer data platform, find the right partner.
Fantastic. That's a good viewpoint on not underestimating the problem. And streaming is complicated. It's not easy. Did you, Anton, did you ever consider building internally your customer data infrastructure? And how did you make that trade-off between buying and working with a vendor that you trust versus building it internally?
Sure. So at Bolt, we actually do have an internal event bus, but it actually communicates directly with Rudderstack. So I think it's from the past, from the day I actually joined Bolt, we have always used vendors, and I think it makes sense because we want to make sure that we can go live with our new use cases or ideas quickly. So let's say with Rudderstack or any other CDP, we can actually do it within a day or maybe even quicker. So I think that makes sense. And of course, we would need to have a team as well to actually manage all of the connections that we want to have, and adding new ones on top means that we need to manage all of the APIs, connections, changes, etc. And it seems not feasible at this moment. So it's actually much better for us to actually use vendor and make sure that we have a very good connection with them to actually scale or try new use cases, which are not, let's say, supported at this moment.
Fantastic. So could you just paint for us a picture? You've talked about the outcomes that you're looking to deliver. What challenges did you face before implementing Rudderstack in achieving those business outcomes that you had in mind? Let's start with you, Anton.
I think like an example is that, let's say you're a startup and you have a lot of different teams that might move in different pace, or they might have different understanding of what the implementation is. So eventually, if we have different teams doing different stuff, the end users, let's say marketing, product, or whoever that is, they will have problems essentially. So I think that makes a lot of sense to actually have that one in one place. So we have one infrastructure, one logic that we can use across different teams.
Got it. So you're bringing up the concept of building trust in data by having a central repository, having a consistent infrastructure to collect that data, and a central repository for the business teams to access that data.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Got it. Alberto?
Talking about the challenges, I mean, the list is very long. So the first problem is we are all in the data space, right? So I think the elephant in the room is always the integration cost. So moving data from A to B, but then there is an integration cost. And Rudderstack has paid this cost for us. So when we want to connect a new product analytical tool, a new marketing tool, a customer engaged platform, it's just a click. So you achieve two things. First, you go live much faster. And second, you don't depend anymore on engineering. So the marketing department can create a connection on their own. And this unlocks a lot of potential in the company, because this data, if it stays in a silo, it will not be monetized. If the data flows in the system where it can be monetized, then there is value created for the company.
Fantastic. That's a great answer, and it goes back to the whole concept of don't underestimate the problem. Integrations, it's easy to build an integration, but can you build it to work at a billion event scale, right? So when you have a lot of customers, it gets significantly harder to build stable integrations. So thank you for sharing that. What does the future hold? Like when you think about the evolution of data at Bolt, what use cases are you looking to unlock? You talked about personalization, obviously, But what does the future hold as you look ahead?
So I think that we want to make sure that, let's say, from marketing perspective, everything that we do, it makes sense for the customer as well. So the communication that we send out, it should be relevant, it should be sent at the right time for the user, it should make sense from the content perspective, so they could extract value from that as well. And I think that, let's say, with AI, we actually are moving to that direction as well. So I think that's something that might be very interesting in general.
Got it. And how do you think about, and I'll get to you in a bit in terms of the future, how do you think about like the latency that you're looking for? You talked about earlier about personalized experiences.
Yeah.
Like how fast does the activation have to be for it to be in real time to meet the business needs that you have?
Can you rephrase it?
So when you talk about the personalization in real time, right? One thing that you mentioned was that when you're ordering food, for example, right, the message has to be delivered at the right time, right? What does the right time mean? Is that a couple seconds, or how are you looking about the real time?
I mean, I think it depends really on the use case. Yeah. But let's say if we talk about real time, then definitely it should be in seconds from our perspective. So if something happens, let's say a user ordered food for themselves, it arrived. We don't want to actually communicate something that is not relevant at that point. So we want to make sure that either we don't send anything or we send something that is actually relevant. So if they have got the food, they got the communication, so it actually would match and make sense as well.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. Alberto?
Yeah, so we consider this first step the foundation. So the foundation is composed by the data plane and the metadata plane. So there are two vendors that we have identified. One is Rudderstack and the other is Avo. And Rudderstack, we found it the best in breed, the best in his league for the data plane. And for the metadata, we selected Avo. And these two tools, they work like a charm together. And this foundation has solved the problem of instrumenting our apps and collecting data points in near real time. Because you can always slow down the latency because you want to save money, and the processing, the training model, for example, doesn't need to be in real time. You can do it in a batch manner. But the challenge is that if the first step, that is collecting the data, the customer data, is already in batch, then you are already committing all the infrastructure only to the use cases that they can work in a batch manner. So it's very important that your infrastructure starts with a near real-time collection of the data, and then in the data warehouse, in other technology, you can slow down to achieve cost efficiency.
Fantastic. One concept that you've brought up is one of ensuring data quality, right? Going back to the theme of building trust in data. Anton, could you share more about how you manage data quality at Bolt and making sure that you have the right data that everybody understands and everybody is reading from the same source?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, at Bolt we use EventBus internally. So that's for all of the engineering teams to actually implement and use when they do tracking, let's say for their own use cases or for marketing or product use cases. And I think that already makes our data quality a lot better, is because it's all based on code, and we can actually manage the changes. So if something goes wrong, we can revert back, etc. But of course, we use it together with Rudderstack, so it gives us, let's say, an extra layer of protection in terms of like data quality.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that. One additional question that we have is, where should the data team live, right? And I think we have two different archetypes here, right? Anton, you're part of the marketing organization, right? And Alberto, you're part of the central data team. Could you just talk more about the trade-offs of each concept, or how you arrived at that answer in your different organizations? Maybe let's start with Alberto.
Yeah, I think it depends on the size of the company. I have worked in bigger companies where, of course, you need to shape the organization differently. And for the size of OneFootball, we are very happy with this organization. There is a central team. It's not a bottleneck. It can take care of all the data movement and the governance. And we are involved with all the use cases. So we talk with performance marketing, we talk with advertising, we talk with product analytics, and if you choose the technology correctly, if you have the right partners, I think also a small team can achieve a lot, and you don't need all the structure that you would see in a company with a much bigger scale.
Fantastic, thank you.
Well, at Bolt, we do collect and store the data, let's say from a customer data perspective, in the marketing organization, but that's something that just evolved over time. As we saw that marketing was the main, let's say, user of customer data platform, of course product as well, but marketing has a lot more use cases to try out and test, etc. And I think that makes sense for us because it gives us, let's say, an ability to work autonomously as well. So marketing teams can actually make their own decisions and run their ideas, test, and maybe kind of share the insights or the results with other teams as well.
Fantastic, thank you for that. So what I'm hearing is that it's not a one-size-fits-all. Depends on the size of the organization and also the interactions that you have internally. One concept that, part of making data valuable for Rudderstack, our goal is to actually make data teams heroes in the organization, right? We have kind of seen two models, right? One is where you have the data team that's basically an order taker. So essentially taking tickets from different teams and fulfilling those orders. Another way that we've seen where it works really well is where the data team is actually at the table with business teams, right? And that's when truly you can realize the value of customer data. How do you think the data team has been able to exert its influence in participating in the business outcomes at, let's start with Bolt.
Well, let's say last year, our central data team actually switched from ABS to Presto, and I think that change was a huge in terms of like how it impacted in general, let's say Bolt, and how we use data at Bolt. So I think from last year we see a lot more that the data leadership is actually at the table, not only for the specific use cases, but in general, like where the company is moving as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. Alberto?
Yeah, so the data team. Yeah, in OneFootball, of course, we have a central data team that is supporting all the different domains. And compared to a bigger organization where you are kind of detached from the business, you are more focused on the technicality. I see that in smaller organization, you get more involved. What is the domain? What is the problem? What is the use case? So there is really a partnership. It's not there is a ticket, let's close the ticket as fast as possible, but there is a partnership where first of all, we need to select what are the initiatives that are more relevant for the company, and then we need to make sure that we de-risk them and we deliver them in a reasonable amount of time. So I think in small organization, a combination of the right vendors, a strong but small engineering team, data engineering team with also DevOps capability, they can totally handle most of the use cases.
Fantastic, thank you. And then one last question, then we'll open up for any questions from the audience. We've been hearing a lot about AI and LLMs, right? So I'd be remiss not to ask a question on that. Any plans at Bolt and OneFootball on applying the latest AI technology to better serve your customers?
I can't tell right now. No, actually, we're already going live in some countries, so I think that's probably fine. We do use, let's say, LLMs for our customer support, so we plan to definitely expand on that, and we're also looking into how to integrate that into marketing activities, and specifically more on the marketing communication side, as there are a lot more small decision making that we could do with the help of AI.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I will share my secret sauce, okay? So the secret sauce, in my opinion, in my experience, is this. First, get the foundation right. Get the data right. Hire a superstar in AI or generative AI, whatever is the field that looks promising for you, this person will be enabled and it will start a rippling effect. So the full company will be transformed. But don't forget the first step. You need to get the data right. If the data is garbage, in machine learning models, garbage in, garbage out.
Fantastic. So sounds like for your AI is only as good as the quality of your data.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Great. So we have, as I promised, I won't take too much time. So I do want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions from our customers here. I know you don't want to hear from me. So any questions that you have from the crowd? Do we have a mic?
We do have a mic.
Oh, perfect.
Where? Out there.
Yeah.
We talked about team structure and how like central versus distributed structures. But within any analytics team, do you think that it makes sense to have implementation operations included with business analysts? Or does it make sense to have them separately as a function? And also talking specifically about implementation, does it make sense to have a split between BAU versus projects? Because this is continuously changing, new projects keep coming, so do you think that it's a good idea to have a separation between BAU versus new projects, AI or generative AI that comes across?
So from the analytics question, from the first part of the question, I think like in Bolt we have two structures. One is more of a functional. So let's say we have advertising analytics. And basically what the team does is they work on vertical agnostic solutions that other analysts can actually implement them. So, and another part is this vertical ride-hailing, delivery, business, etc., etc. So they can use those implementations that come from that other team and make it used for the business use cases.
Yeah. So, how I can paraphrase the question so how do we organize the data teams, the data practitioner for success? Yeah, it's not simple. I would say first, we need to identify what is the problem. So the diagnosis phase is the most important. Every company is in a different state. The pain point of one company is not the pain point of another company. So a first exercise is to surface what are the biggest problem in data, and why data is not probably creating the value that is expected. And then I think different companies will have different organizations that are more suited for their size and composition. But you need to unlock the talents. So you need to make sure that the talents you have, and they are very difficult to find on the market, they are enabled to get the job done. At the same time, you need to enable the juniors to learn. So you need to find a balance between juniors and senior people so that you can have also a future, because you will not be able to keep the talents forever. So in OneFootball, I would say we belong more to the function you mentioned. So the data engineering is separated from data analyst. So just to simplify here, data analysts are the expert of DBT, so it would be the transformation layer. Data engineering is all about data collection, data storage, all the infrastructure. And then we have the analysts that are the experts, so they are able to make the weekly reports, answer all the business questions, and they partner with the different VP of the company. So for us, we have a setup of 3 different teams with 3 different skills.
Pretty much the same at Bolt as well.
I guess in a bigger scale.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions? While we wait, we have 5 more minutes. The question that you brought up is also one of implementation. And we think about implementation about time to value, right? Talk to us about how important time to value is in terms of building out new use cases and how Rudderstack played into that.
So as we mentioned before, going live with some new use case, it's actually like within hours. If not, then maybe a few days, depending on the product that we want to use as a destination or Rudderstack. And I think it makes huge difference as, let's say, previously before we had any CDPs. To actually implement some new kind of a tracking or add a new event, it would take a lot more time, a lot more effort from the engineering teams as well. So I think it goes both ways. So engineering team, they decrease the time to actually spend on the requests that we make them. And also for us as a marketing organization, it makes huge difference so we can go live within new tools. And imagine if you have new tool, they're offering you some kind of a budget to try out, and you want to go live like within really short time frame. And to make that happen, most probably like Rudderstack or any other CVP can make that work.
Fantastic. Alberto?
So I will just throw a couple of numbers. So the second generation, the generation that we decided to build ourselves, took 2 years dead on arrival. The third generation, in partnership with Rudderstack, it took 3 months, a quarter, to go live with the personalization use case, and this use case went live, and we didn't know about it. So when you democratize the data, and the data is available, and they can find it, you have other departments that they can really monetize this data without even going through the central department.
True. Actually, from the advertising perspective, I think in our marketing organization, we see the big difference as well is that if products or engineering are adding new tracking, then let's say marketing communication probably the main user of that data, but also advertising teams, they want to test and experiment, and to actually do that you need events and new events, etc. So for them it's also very beneficial to actually use the same data that we generated, so we have the same understanding of what are we tracking as results from our efforts.
Absolutely, and one of the things when you think about implementation is data engineers don't enjoy the implementation work, right? So handling broken integrations is a huge pain point.
Yeah.
So being able to take the initial implementation from 2 years down to 3 months and getting value from Rudderstack with a fairly complicated use cases is pretty impressive. Yeah. And then also, like when you already have Rudderstack implemented, when you're trying to test out a new product, doing that in a couple of hours or a couple of days is a huge benefit as well.
Yeah, like in terms of the volumes of data, I think it definitely makes sense because you enable like a destination, you already get like within few hours some set of data you can evaluate if that makes sense, if you can actually use it within the tool, etc. So it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So we have about 2 more minutes in the room. If there are any questions, feel free to come and talk to Anton and Alberto. But thank you all so very much for spending this afternoon with us. Hopefully this was helpful for you as you're looking to make data valuable in your organizations. Thank you both.